After defeating the Chaos Fleet at Waltech, the Justice headed for the Doranpor system to reach supply. Feeling confident that our presence was enough, Yanoi started moving part of his fleet down to the system classified XT-987 to establish a forward guard near the Sons of Horse and the Magi dynasty's main bases.
The fleet is ready, O Alo Yanoi. If these invaders try to advance, we will be ready to strike.
Very good, Linun Young. Maintain your position. My flagship will be there shortly.
Well, look at what we got here, Con. A bunch of them blue-skin, no-nose tow. Let's see if we can get a fight out of them.
All hands, battle stations, we're under attack!
The Orcs came out behind the Tau fleet and closed in. The Red Claws and the Tooth Pullers fired their weapon batteries at the Rei-Su squadron, but their shields took the impact. The Speedy Death Squadron and the Golden Gits then fired salvos of torpedoes, trapping the Tau fleet. With the threat of torpedoes on both sides, the fleet all moved to their starboard side. The Rei-Su squadron fired on the Red Claws, but were unable to hit them. As the Orc torpedoes moved in, the ones closest to the Tau fleet were destroyed before they could do any damage. But the salvo on their port side had now caught up with them, preventing any course corrections for the time being. One of the Red Claws rammed a ship in the Rei-Su squadron, destroying it, while the rest of the Orc ram ships fired on the tongue but missed. The Cass was not so lucky. It took the brunt of the Orc torpedoes that came from the Speedy Deaths and was turned into a blazing hulk. Seeing that the Speedy Deaths would soon be on their fleet, the LD Vesa took the chance it had and disengaged from the battle. The Anuk Cass tried to do the same but failed. The escort squadrons did their best to repel the Orc ships, but only managed to destroy one of the Golden Gits' vessels. This battle was quickly becoming one-sided. The Golden Gits rammed the Rei-Su squadron, destroying one of their vessels. The Tooth Pullers and the Red Claws fired on the Chandril Tongue, but couldn't get past its shields. The Speedy Death then closed in, leaving no chance for escape for Yanoi's forces. The Chandril Tongue tried to disengage from the battle once again, but was unsuccessful. The Rei-Su and the RLD did a multi-part attack on the Orc escorts, but only managed to destroy one of the members of the Golden Gits. The Tooth Pullers and the Red Claws then rammed the Rei-Su and the RLD, destroying all but two of the Rei-Su's escorts. The Golden Gits fired on the Chandril Tongue, but thankfully their shields held. The net was getting tighter and tighter. In one last desperate attempt, Yanoi's forces tried to disengage from the battle, this time being successful. And it was a good thing too, for any longer, and they would not have gotten out of there alive. The Orcs then took control over the system XT-987. Though it was only temporary, it gave the Magi dynasty enough time to set a course and move a fleet to attack the Doranpor system, where prior to these events I took the Iron Will to meet up with Archmagnus Veneratus Graham to discuss our next move.
As you can see, Striker, unlike you, I was able to get the system under Mechanicum control.
Indeed, Archmagnus. Now the goal is to keep control of the system.
A simple task. You have nothing to worry about. I will hold our position here and continue to liberate the neighboring systems.
Very well. I'll head back to the Star Fort, and with us working from both sides, we will quickly close in on the enemy.
So, this is the Imperium I've heard so much about. All ships, exterminate them.
Out of nowhere, the Magi dynasty attacked us. Catching us in a standby status, they made short work of the Rough Rider squadron, and fired on the Iron Will, dropping her shields and dealing a bit of damage. All hands, battle stations!
Striker, the machine spirit of the Liberty is unsettled. She won't get into battle status.
We will do our best to cover you, Archmagnus, but be quick. We are going to need all we can to deal with this. I took the Iron Will towards the planet to try and use it as a shield. The Justice ordered to come to a new heading to intercept the Necron fleet, while the Emperor's Hand squadron came about to try and get behind it. The Justice fired on one of the Shroud vessels, leaving it as a blazing hulk. I fired on the Necron forces closing in on us, but were unable to push them back. The Magi dynasty started to surround the Iron Will and the Liberty. As they got in close, the Jackal-class fighters attacked the Iron Will.
Sir, the prow armaments have been damaged.
Get the Tech Priest down here now. We need all the firepower this old girl can muster. The Emperor's Hand and the Justice were doing their best to try and get into firing range of the Magi dynasty's fleet, while I took the Iron Will over the planet to try and give cover to the Liberty, which was still unable to get the vessel up to full power. We tried to fire on the Jackal escorts, but missed. Doing their best to give us support, the Emperor's Hand launched a salvo of torpedoes and managed to destroy one of the Jackals. The effort seemed wasted, as the Magi's escorts surrounded the Iron Will and the Liberty. They fired on us both.
No! All hands brace for...
Explorer, Striker! Our port weapons are down! The engine room's on the brink of overloading!
It all happened so fast. The Liberty went silent, her entire crew killed. The Iron Will was crippled, and to make matters worse, her systems were starting to overload. I didn't want to admit it then, but I knew that she was slowly dying, and I could do little to save her. We did our best to try and push back the assaulting Magi Dynasty vessels, but it seemed like their hulls were just brushing off our attacks. It was as if the longer this battle went on, the less and less effective our weapons were becoming. Not willing to risk the Magi getting a hold of our technology, I ordered the Emperor's Hand Squadron to fire on the Liberty, but their shots went wild. The Iron Will then launched bombers at the ship designated as a Harvester. As they made their runs, it seemed like the Omnissiah was still willing to bless us during this battle.
Command core damage. System processing power reduced by 30%.
After our assault, the whole Necron fleet converged on the Iron Will, and she finally went silent. The Harvester fired on the Emperor's Hand, destroying one of the ships. As for me, I just barely escaped the blazing hulk that was now the Iron Will. My escape pod was intercepted by the Justice, and it was from there that I continued to overlook the battle. The Justice went after the Necron ships around the planet, while the Emperor's Hand chased after the lone Shroud. They fired at the vessel but missed. The Justice tried to detonate the Liberty, but only managed to set the ship ablaze. It then fired its Nova Cannon at the Iron Will, causing the plasma drive to overload. Though all but one of the escorts of the Magi Dynasty ships survived the explosion, it did manage to damage the engines of the Shroud that was right in front of the Iron Will. The Magi's ship swooped in on both the Justice and the Emperor's Hand. In an almost flawless attack run, they managed to destroy all but one of the Emperor's Hand ships, and managed to take the prow armament of the Justice offline. As the battle went on, I couldn't help but wonder if this was going to be the end of us all. The fires on the Liberty reached the plasma drive and the ship exploded. Hoping to use the explosion as a distraction, the remaining ships of the Emperor's Hand tried to disengage but was unsuccessful. The Justice cut right through the Magi ships and fired on the Shroud and Harvester-class vessels. Though the Harvester shields deflected the attack, we were able to halt the Shroud-class cruiser. Hoping to end this, the Magi Dynasty's escorts started to swing around the planet to cut off the Justice's escape path, while the Harvester fired on the Emperor's Hand. Thankfully, though, their shots went wild. It was then that the Emperor's Hand Squadron disengaged from the battle. The Justice, trying to get some distance, fired on the Harvester. We were lucky to break through the armor, but the damage was minimal. All hands, brace for impact! The Magi escorts fired on the Justice, bringing all her weapon systems offline. As the Justice passed the planet, she successfully disengaged from the battle, and our control of Doranpor was lost.
The system is now ours, Lord Ammon.
Excellent. Now we can focus on eliminating the Tau.
With the Doranpor system under his control, Lord Amen effortlessly cut us off from Yunoi's forces. It felt like we were battling a raging storm. The Magi Dynasty's fleet was moving right through our outpost in Doranpor as if they were nothing. Seeking to learn more about our forces and battle plans, Lord Amen ordered the capture of some of my scouting ships in the Gibbous 6 system. These ships were fitted with Necron engines, the crew imprisoned, and put into a convoy to travel back to Nasaline.
The convoy should be passing through here soon. Perfect. We must try and save Striker's ships before Lord Amen gets a chance to interrogate the crew.
The convoy will be leaving the system soon, my lord.
Splendid. I look forward to hearing what secrets these humans know.
Naldina's forces lied in wait while the whole of the convoy entered the system, not willing to make the Necrons alerted to their presence prematurely. The Moon Dancer made the first assault. Taking the Necrons by surprise, she managed to destroy one of the escort ships before launching a torpedo salvo right in front of their path. Knowing all too well the speed that the Magi Dynasty ships possessed, the Moon Dancer then turned about in hopes to catch the convoy as it passed by. It would seem that Verdanton miscalculated. Instead of pressing forward like they did with the Tau, the Magi Dynasty escorts got right on top of the Moondancer, hulking her in one single attack. Seeing that the Moondancer was destroyed, the Fate Weaver Squadron attempt to block the convoy's way again by firing more torpedoes across their path, before making a tactical retreat to minimal safe distance from the escorts. The Magi's escorts were able to move around the Eldar torpedoes and take out the 2 ships of the Fate Weaver Squadron that were sent there, while the Shroud-class vessel stayed in formation with the captured escorts to make sure that this attack was not just a mere distraction.
It is suicide to continue with this mission. I agree. Pull out all remaining forces from the area. They won this battle.
Lord Ammon, we encountered Eldar forces hiding in the system.
How quaint. They are still alive. Has their presence affected your mission?
Negative.
Then their presence is of no concern for the time being. We will deal with them once the rest of these vermin have been dealt with.
The Magi Dynasty now had the upper hand on us as they took our ships to the Nassaline system. Even if they failed to break the officers on those ships, they would most likely get some useful information from the ship's data banks. I needed to act fast, and now. Once my new battleship, the Reliant, translated to me at Taurus 9, a call was sent to the Perseus sector for reinforcements. I just pray that they can make it to us in time.